Union Studio at Fitchburg Access Television. Welcome to live election night coverage from FATV. I'm Kevin Cormier, along with my longtime election night partner, Mark Bedanza.
Hey, Kevin. Glad to be back again.
Doing it once again. So here we are, the midterm state elections. We have several races that we'll be watching tonight where we have local candidates on the ballot. We have a state Senate race with John Cronin versus his Republican challenger, Ken Hoyt. We have in Fitchburg a state reps race with Mike Kuchmarek versus Aaron Packard. And probably, and I think you'll agree with me, probably the most competitive race that we're going to be seeing tonight is in Fitchburg, or at least the most interesting race where people are having a hard time predicting it, between Natalie Higgins and John Dombrowski.
Yeah, the Leominster state reps race clearly is, I think, the race that's holding the most interest for locals. Not that you want to take anything else for granted, but you know, as much as you can predict, one would think that's a competitive race. And
also a couple of congressional races locally. As we know, with the last redistricting, or maybe it was the redistricting before that, Leominster and Fitchburg was split up. Leominster is part of the 2nd congressional district. Right. You have Senator McGovern, Jim McGovern, running against his Republican challenger, Jeffrey Parquet. And in the 3rd congressional district, Lori Trahan, the incumbent, running against former state Senator Dean Tran, of course, from Fitchburg.
Right.
So we'll be watching that. Any thoughts of what we should be watching on both of those?
I fully expect the incumbents to win, but who knows? Sometimes politics is a tricky thing to predict. The mood of the country obviously is pretty jacked up right now. Obviously, there's a lot of energy out there, and what that's going to do for turnouts is yet to be seen. But it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting night locally as well as nationally, and stay tuned.
It may be a tale of two cities between what Massachusetts does and what the country does tonight, if polls are to be believed, and what we're hearing out there. But we'll find out as the evening rolls on. Yeah,
well, Massachusetts clearly isn't the bellwether for what's going on in the rest of the country, but. Just our neighbor to the north has got a very fascinating Senate race, and
Maggie Hassan versus Don Bolduc. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. That turned into a lean Democrat to a toss-up, I believe.
Hard to have predicted that a couple months ago, and here you go.
Sure. So speaking of one of our local races, we have State Senator John Cronin has stopped into the studio.
Good to be here. It's election night in the Twin Cities when Kevin and Mark are together in studio. So
nice to see you, Senator.
It's my privilege to be here tonight with you.
So you were here. This is your first term. 2 years ago, this week was probably different feelings than you have now.
Yeah, I think at the end of any election, when your name is on the ballot, it's one part exhaustion, it's one part relief, and one part crippling anxiety when you get to this point in the night. And I was feeling some crippling anxiety last year about this time when the results were coming in. But we really feel like we've hit the ground running in our first term, and my entire team. And we've got a record that we've stood behind and are proud of, and just tried to run through the tape through November 8th this year.
It was a very contentious race last time. You were running against an incumbent, so emotions were running high. And it turned out to be an extremely close race. I don't think we even called it that night. We had to wait till the next day.
I remember. Yeah, I remember. We didn't call it that night. We knew at about maybe a little after midnight that the numbers were going to break our way. But yeah, it's different, but and it speaks to some of the races tonight. I think one of the toughest things to do in politics, especially at the state and local level, is to unseat an incumbent.
So how has it been, your first term as state senator?
I've loved it. I think I remember the first time we sat down when I was a naive challenger candidate, and I think in this position you age in dog years. At least my waistline would say so. But one thing that was a priority for me was to build a great team, and I think I'm really proud of the hires in terms of the people that I've brought in to work on the staff on behalf of the district. So I think what we've done an excellent job of is constituent services, being at senior centers on a weekly basis, being out in the community, being accessible, and being a resource for people who are to be blunt, facing the challenges of inflation, the cost of living, high fuel prices. And so trying to respond to those challenges to effectively represent people on the ground.
Senator, what's something you didn't expect during the first term that you encountered?
I didn't expect that I would be able to go into the Senate and be either as effective as I believe we were or as impactful. And I think, a lot of that has to do with the environment over the past 2 years. The state has been running a huge surplus. There was ARPA funds that were dedicated to the state. So some of the things like the $3 million we were able to get to the theater block. We just passed an economic development bill with nearly $1 million for downtown housing production in Fitchburg. Those are things that I think other members would say, well, you got to be there 5 years or 10 years to really to be able to do within the caucus. But I think to step in and to be frank, to be a part of the majority, people want you to be successful and are going to make you successful. And so, I'm proud of how we were able to deliver.
It's an odd mix, I think. Is it fair to say that with all the challenges going on here in the Commonwealth as well as throughout the country, there are other advantages that, as you were talking about, the amount of funding that's available to local government through the state and federal government. Is that something that's really unusual?
I think absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are people on both sides. I think a Minority Leader, Bruce Tarr, and the Ways and Means Chair, Michael Rodrigues in the Senate. They've both served in the legislature for over 20 years. They've never seen an environment like this.
Yeah.
So it speaks to some of these once-in-a-lifetime things in terms of the influx of federal funds, but it also speaks to, I believe, how the economy in the Commonwealth is booming. And we're not feeling that here necessarily the way that they're feeling it in Somerville and Cambridge, but we can't grow fast enough. We can't build housing fast enough. We can't improve our transit fast enough. And so those are serious problems, but those are much better problems than not growing and not having a 21st century economy.
Okay. So I believe you will be with Representative Kushmarek tonight at your election night party, FATV, Flap TV live election coverage. We're going to have crews at all the campaign parties tonight in Leominster and Fitchburg. So we're going to be catching up with you shortly, and I'm sure you'll be hoping to give us a little victory speech.
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't count our chickens before they hatch, but look forward to being in touch with the studio again later tonight.
Awesome.
And thanks for your coverage here. This is a great public service. A lot of people's eyes are glued to this production. So thank you.
Best of
Thank
luck,
you so
Senator.
much.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck,
Yeah.
Senator.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we will have live. We have live teams at the election party at Kushmarek and Cronin party. We will have, I believe, Alex Vera will be there. At the John Dabrowski headquarters, FATV, Flap TV correspondent Glenn Fossa will be there. And then we will have Michael Delamonica at Higgins headquarters in Leominster, so we can get some live feeds before and after the results come in.
Interesting.
Okay. So I believe we have another guest that I see coming in from the control room. We do have another race in Fitchburg. It's Representative Michael Kushmarek, who, like Senator Cronin, is finishing up his first term in the Massachusetts legislature, being challenged by Republican Aaron Packard. You probably saw both of them participating in a debate here at FATV a few weeks ago. Representative Kushmarek has stopped into the studio to join us and to say hello.
Gentlemen, good evening. How are you?
Representative, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you both.
Good
Nice
to
to
see
see you.
How you feeling?
Feeling great. Great. It's always an exhilarating time, after you've done all the hard work, you've spent months out there knocking doors, making phone calls, doing the fundraisers, doing the standouts. And now you've pulled your last volunteers out from the polling stations, and in about 30 minutes the polls are going to close. So there's nothing more we could have done. And so at this point now it's one of those, you get 30 minutes to kind of just enjoy the celebration of the day with nothing else to do, right?
It's
both agonizing and exciting as a candidate.
If we look at the national landscape, our national politics, and it has seeped into state and local politics, unfortunately, is the nastiness, the divisiveness, the personal attack. This is your second run for state representative, your first run, your second run, and it seems that your races have been absent of that kind of personal animosity that you've had. You've run races, both you and your opponent last time and this time, seem to be, definitely differences of opinions on issues, but have run cordial campaigns.
I'm glad you've noticed and take a lot of effort to make sure that that's the case. I think elections and campaigns are reflections of your community and what the candidate sees, both as their vision in the community as well as just a statement of where they are. And so I think when you go negative, I think it's a reflection of what you think the people you hope to represent both want and what you think your community is. And so I think I choose to see the positive in our region and in our community, and certainly in the population and the residents and the businesses that I represent. And so that's why I really focus on the positive. And I'll really give a lot of kudos to my my last opponent, Glenn Fossa, who really, we talked early on, and it was one of those quick meetings on the side before we launched in, and we said, all right, there's two ways we could do this. We're going to keep it positive, and there was that agreement up front, the gentleman's agreement of, all right, no matter what, don't get distracted by everything else. If we have an issue, we'll call each other, but we talk this out and keep things positive. And the reaction that we got in over the past 2 years has been just incredible, and we've continued to maintain a wonderful relationship and friendship, and now I hear people that that engage with, wow, thank you for keeping it positive. So and I think that's really the tone we've tried to set, and I commend my opponent this year, and same thing. I think it was cordial throughout the entire campaign.
That's a wonderful thing to hear in this climate that we live in. Particular challenges your first term that you grappled with that were noteworthy to you?
Well, I think in that first term, you spend a lot of time learning, right? Yeah. And I think there's always this inclination of you spend 12 months campaigning for office, and you get in and you just want to start acting. But realizing that there's 159 colleagues in the House, another 40 in the Senate and executive branch, your local partners, and realizing that, well, all right, let's pump the brakes here. Let's do the assessment of where are we. And it's helpful that I had 8 years as a municipal official, so I felt pretty confident. All right, I know the direction for the city of Fitchburg, but I still need to do a little pulse check with the town of Lunenburg, and then work with the local regional delegation, and then get a better sense too from from my legislative colleagues too. And so I really tried to make sure I took the first 12 months to listen, to learn, to observe, see where the landmines are before I then really set the course. And so it's always that struggle, right? Of you want to just jump into the deep end of the pool, but realize that may hurt you in the long term. Let's take this opportunity. You only get to be new once. Use that opportunity, learn, and two, coming in at the same time, during in the midst of a global pandemic, and economy was in a slide, and we're still recovering economically and going through the peaks and valleys of the after effects of COVID, trying to really advocate for vaccine rollouts in our region, and struggling with vaccine equity that seemingly left North Central ignored for a long time, and trying to really fight the governor's administration while we're working with them, but also saying, hey, we're not being served well enough out here and adequately enough.
So you're running for re-election, so you must like it.
I absolutely love it.
Very good. Yeah. So we will have a live crew at your campaign headquarters tonight. So we will be catching up with you after the results come in, and see if you're laughing and smiling or otherwise.
The past 2 years have been the journey and the experience of a lifetime. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And now I leave that political future in the hands of the people of the 3rd Worcester.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative Kuchmarek, for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks for your coverage this evening.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the other races that we'll be looking at this evening is the race in the 3rd Congressional District, which goes all the way from Fitchburg all the way to the Merrimack Valley, Lowell, Dracut, down to Westford. Has quite a big swath. Both candidates, Lori Trahan, the incumbent Democrat, and her Republican challenger, Dean Tran, were in Fitchburg today. We were able to catch up with them at the polling location. Do we have that clip ready to go? We do. So let's see what both candidates had to say while in Fitchburg today.
Fitchburg Leominster All Politics with U.S. Congresswoman Lori Trahan and her crew here at Memorial School. Lori, the campaign looks energized. Tell us more.
Well, we're seeing good turnout. We've been to a bunch of polls already this morning, and we're going to be at them all day. Certainly early voting is very popular in Massachusetts, but we're seeing a lot of turnout in person at the polls. So excited. We've worked hard. We have a lot of work ahead, and just honored by the support that we've seen so far. We have to reduce the cost of living for people who are suffering right now. Their energy bills, their food bills, their gas prices. I mean, that is what we're laser focused on doing, both in the near term and in the long term.
In Ward 6, serviced by St. Bernard's Activity Center, the former Senator Dean Tran, of course, running for Congress. Dean, the campaign looks like it's got some momentum.
Yes, it is. We have a tremendous opportunity here to make history. And as you know, I am the first Asian American to be on the general ballot to run for the U.S. Congress in this state. And we are on the verge of making history and becoming the first Asian American to be elected to the U.S. Congress tonight.
Kerry being a partner in the campaign, of course. Your husband doing well.
Yes, I think he's doing excellent. He's been out there, he's been working really hard, and people trust him.
So that was those were the two candidates for Congress today. Your thoughts on that race, Mark?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out before it's over. I mean, again, Dean Tran's taking a step up the ladder here against a incumbent. Seems to be a challenge, and
yeah, both just about every national political think tank, 538, Cook, the rest of them, have this as well as a 2nd congressional district. In fact, all congressional districts this year is solid Democrat,
yeah.
Which kind of goes against the trend of what we're seeing nationally.
Not surprising in Massachusetts, right?
It's not, but we really are bucking the trend, it seems, if you believe the polling, which we'll find out when polls close in about 13 minutes here in Massachusetts. What is your take on things nationally?
Well, I think it's going to be a long night, and maybe days afterward before some of these races are decided. I've heard that the Republicans could pick up as many as 70 seats in the House. Control of the Senate obviously is up for grabs. I think when all is said and done, it would be unlikely that the president's going to have a Congress that's controlled by his party. So not an unusual circumstance historically. Happens often, and in the particular, with all the country's been through the last several years, it's not really surprising, honestly.
It's not, and it really is. It's not outside of the norm. It's not historic. It's really the norm when we look at a president's first 2 years in.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say too, Kevin, is that you hear a lot about the climate nationally and how divisive the country is, and this is like it's a new thing, and I can assure people it's not.
No. I think social media just magnifies it. It puts us in our face.
We always look at the times we live in as being somehow unique, and they're not. I mean, in 1876, there was an election that, President Grant had to call out the federal troops to put down riots and insurrections in Florida and Louisiana and South Carolina in that particular presidential race, and people were talking about civil war. Fresh off the first one. In that race, Tilden almost won the race. He was one electoral vote short, and there were 4 states that hadn't decided their slates. Those 3 southern states plus Oregon. It took a long time to figure it all out. He couldn't get that electoral vote. Those states couldn't certify an electoral slate. Eventually, the 3 southern states each selected 2 slates. One, the Republican slate, the other one, the Democratic slate. And Oregon's race was found to be faulty. Congress had to intervene. They couldn't figure it out. They finally appointed a 15-member commission, which was made up of 5 Congress people, Republican and Democrat, and then 5 judges. So 2 Democratic judges, 2 Republican judges. The 4 judges were to select a 5th, and they went back and forth and finally selected a Republican judge. And Tilden, who only needed that 1 electoral vote, lost the race by 1 vote, 8-7, right along party lines.
Oh, could you imagine if that happened in the days of cable news and social media?
So this is, as I said, it's nothing new.
It's not. And the polls indicate it's going to be a very good night for Republicans. But with all of the hostility that's pent up that you see on social media, that you see in having conversations, even with coworkers, it's really a lot of people are on edge. And when what I try to tell people, calm down, folks. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
elections are like the New England weather. If you don't like one season, just hold on. Another season is coming. We tend to bounce off the guardrails in this country on elections. I mean, even if you look at presidents in my lifetime, Nixon Republican, Carter Democrat, Reagan Republican, and then it went and then Clinton Democrat, Bush Republican,
we
Obama,
always have.
back and forth, back and forth. And if we look at, and what I would say tonight and urge people on both sides is don't get too excited and don't get too disappointed on anything that happens tonight, because politics is very fleeting and public sentiment is very fleeting. We have a graphic, Robin, if we could put that up, of looking at midterms of presidents in their first terms. And what we can see is that, again, this isn't really historic. It's sort of the norm. Do we have that graphic, Robin? And if we look at midterms, we're in the second year of President Biden's presidency, and he has an approval rating right now of about 44%. We don't know how many seats are going to be lost in the midterms, but if you look at these other presidents, you know, Barack Obama in his first 2 years had an approval rating of 45%, lost 63 seats in the House of Representatives, and then came back and won re-election decisively. Bill Clinton had an approval rating of 44%, lost 54 seats in the House of Representatives, came back and won re-election decisively 2 years later over Bob Dole. And the president with the lowest approval rating after his first 2 years was Ronald Reagan at 42%. He lost 68 House seats, came back 2 years later, and won 49 states.
Yeah.
So
Proves your point.
you
does.
can't. I mean, historically, if you look, and the one who had the highest approval rating there, over 50% at 63%, George Bush, who also lost a small number of House seats. He was reelected also, but not by much. It was Ohio. You know, a few thousand votes in Ohio could have changed that election, where 4 out of 5 presidents here that you see that lost significantly in the House of Representatives after their first 2 years went on to be reelected. So it's tough to read too much into what this means for 2024, what we see tonight.
Yeah. No, you're right. And there's a you know, the pendulum is constantly swinging back and forth, and it will continue in the future.
It is. We talked earlier about one of the most competitive races that we think that we're going to see tonight, although we could be surprised, is your hometown, your city of Leominster in Ward 4.
Yeah.
I believe we have Michael Delamonica live at Higgins headquarters. If we can get Michael up and tell us what the mood is there of Representative Higgins and her supporters. Do we have Michael?
Can you hear me?
Hey, Michael.
Can you hear me? Oh, excellent. All right. So I'll tell you, the mood here is very businesslike. I'm at the Higgins residence, actually her parents' residence, and the mood here is very, very businesslike, very orderly. I've been to some post-election get-togethers and parties before, and I see in my monitor here the Cronin-Kuchmarek campaign is over at the Thirsty Robot there, and this is a decidedly different scene. Here we are at the Higgins parents' residence, and right up until 7:30-ish, 7:40-ish, I saw people phone banking here. They're working right up until the last minute. This is a veteran campaign. They have won several elections. She is a 3-term incumbent, and whether it's just thoroughness or just a sign of confidence or just a sign of just work until the end to get votes, they're still pushing here. And so we expect some people to be rolling in later on as the evening goes on. And of course, when we have results, we can have some interviews and share them with you all.
Do we have Michael, can you hear me?
I can.
You can, great. What is it are they still working? Is it the campaign workers there? Are the supporters starting to trickle in? What seems to be the atmosphere now where we're 5 minutes away from the polls closing?
Pretty matter of fact. That's the best way I can describe it. We have some people milling around. They're mostly in other areas of the house here. They're letting us work here and letting us set up. And so just very I don't know, just very, if I could describe it as anything, I'd just say, yeah, it's business as usual. Here we are again.
Did they put out a good spread at least? You have some good. Do they have good food at the at headquarters, Higgins?
Yeah, from what I can see here, yeah.
Okay. All right, bring back some Tupperware, okay?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You have anything for
I'll be a
Michael,
good
Mark?
Italian boy and do that,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's an interesting report. Sounds like a lot of diligence, really.
I can't hear Mark very well.
Michael, I just said your report sounds like a very diligent effort today. That there's a lot of work.
Absolutely. And I think in this race in particular, both campaigns, now they've had different ways of doing it and different ways of expressing this, but very hardworking campaigns on both sides here. This is going to be real interesting race. Dare I say it, the marquee race locally here.
We'll be coming back to you, Michael, with live reaction from the Higgins camp once the numbers start rolling in.
Very good. I'll be here. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
On the other side of this race is one of your former colleagues, former City Councilor John Dombrowski, who's running as an unenrolled candidate.
Yeah. So, that by itself is a, not unique, but interesting facet of this particular race. John was an 18-year veteran of the City Council, pretty well liked and respected. Has to be a formidable opponent, one would think.
Very well known, local attorney. He's been a practicing attorney in town for decades. He was on the City Council for 18 years. So, and then you have three-term incumbent Natalie Higgins, who's always done very well electorally. Yeah, it's a marquee matchup.
Seems to be in the the Leominster-Fitchburg area the race that people are most trying to figure out.
Yeah, and we have Glenn Fossa, who is live at the Dombrowski headquarters in Leominster. If we can go to Glenn.
Kevin and Mark, we are at Brady's just beyond Monument Square here in Leominster, and I can literally say just within the last couple of minutes, the room is filling up. There's excitement in the room. Of course, he's challenging incumbent Natalie Higgins, and we expect this to be a close race by everything that we hear. Interviewing, of course, out in Leominster today, talking with a bunch of folks. No one has called a favorite, and that's really what we're going to watch tonight. The excitement's building. We expect John Dombrowski here just momentarily, and it's going to be a good race.
Glenn, the current mood in the room, is it, how would you describe it best? Yeah, I see there's a number of people that have gathered there already.
Yeah, the crowd is almost at capacity in this particular room. Just beyond me here to my rear is the Dombrowski family. And we've got the live shot going, of course, in more than one location for Fitchburg Access Television and Fitchburg Leominster All Politics. All I can say is that it's a very, very exciting time. There's a spread. I don't know if there was a backstory competition on what they're serving at each headquarters, but I can tell you this is certainly an exciting time for Brady's.
And well, there we go. We got to look at the spread there. How is it, Glenn? How's the spread there?
Oh, it's excellent. There's cheese and crackers, and of course it goes beyond that because Brady's is well known for their appetizer fare and of course their entrees. And there'll be no drinking for the crew tonight, but at least while we're on the air.
Good call. Thank you, Glenn, and we'll be back to you for more live reaction when the numbers start pouring in shortly.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. So we are about
Just
15
seconds.
Seconds away. We are about 15 seconds from the polls closing, and then we should see numbers start to come in. The voters have been out. From what I understand, the voting was brisk today, at least in Leominster.
Yeah.
I think between mail-in voting and early voting, we had about 5,000.
Yeah, pretty good number.
Going into today. And then in
all
Fitchburg,
of which will be tallied or have been tallied throughout the day.
yes,
Fed into the machine. So when we start getting our numbers, unlike a couple years ago when we got from Fitchburg, I think, 2 disparate sets of votes. If you might remember that, Kevin, it was rather difficult. We got the in-person vote first, which was very different, very different than the mail-in vote.
it was. And one of the things that was different there also, back when they first started this in 2020, is that the ballot only had to be postmarked by Election Day, so we still had ballots coming in for several days. I think they had a week to come in after Election Day.
That's right.
Where now they are required to come in. They're now required to come in by Election Day to be fed into the polls by 8 p.m. that night. So
Yeah.
the results that will be coming in will be all of
All the
those
vote.
early vote
Yeah.
and mail-in votes. So we were able to catch up with some voters out there today in the field as they were voting out there. I think we got a couple voters. If we could go to that clip out of the field.
And as lawyers make an appearance, Alan Butlin, of course, making an appearance here, voting day at Memorial School early. It's a crisp fall morning. Alan, co-host of Inside Fitchburg, great to see you. Tell us about your thoughts today.
You know, I think it's an important election. I think a lot of people will look at midterms and think that I can skip this. You can't skip it. Everything is on the line in every election, and it's a privilege to be here and be able to vote, be able to show up, and be able to walk in and walk out in 5 minutes. And you can't take anything that we have here for granted.
City of Fitchburg at-large Councilor Amy Green. Amy standing out today for Mike Kushmerek, the Democrat, looking for election in his second term as state representative. Amy, great to see you today. Tell us more about today's and this morning's election day.
Well, one thing Fitchburg prides itself on is showing up for their civic duty, voting being one of them. And where we've got 3 local candidates running for 3 local spots, I mean, I think it's a great turnout. Obviously, from the crowd here this morning at Memorial Middle School, a good turnout. So,
Mike Kushmerek, of course, in his second term looking for the state rep job. Word on the street is that Mike's done a good job, and you're standing out for him.
yeah, I think that he's done a great job. And with that is the communication from his office to local residents and constituents, letting them know the good work that he's doing every day for us here in town.
And that was a reaction from a couple voters out there in Fitchburg today. We just had live shots from Higgins headquarters and Dombrowski headquarters. We were able to catch up with both candidates, both John Dombrowski and Natalie Higgins, out in the field today as people were voting. And we can, as we wait for these numbers to start coming in, we can see what they had to say.
I'm here with Natalie Higgins at the Higgins headquarters. Now, Natalie, they are saying that this is going to be a tight race. How do you feel?
We're really excited about the work that we've done, going through the city twice, talking to Leominster voters, and we're hard at work until polls close. So we're excited for today. I'm really grateful for the support of Leominster voters.
Absolutely, and obviously on a national level, you know, there's a lot of talks about it being, you know, this red wave coming through, and you know, the Republicans are going to sweep all their chairs and everything. How do you feel about that? Are there any concerns from you and your campaign?
We've just been really focused on showing what Democrats stand for, making sure government is working for folks, making sure that it's accountable to the people, and meeting them where they're at. And so that's what we've been doing with our campaign, and we're hopeful for the midterms across the country.
I have here John Dombrowski, who is running against Natalie Higgins for state representative, the incumbent. John, what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a long day. Usually election day, it's very busy early in the morning, then it peters out a little bit. And then by the end of the day, after work is out, it picks up again. So it's just a matter of hopefully getting the vote out and getting enough votes to win.
On the national level, they say that there's a big red wave coming. What are your thoughts on that as an independent?
I'm not quite sure I agree with that. I think it's going to be more balanced than people think. I think that Democrats are going to show up to vote, and I think it is going to be a little more balanced. But I have heard that there's going to be a red wave, but I'm not sure I'm quite in agreement with it.
Day with Natalie Higgins and John Dabrowski. It looks like they're both out there working the votes.
Yeah, you got to do it. So it's all over now, though. And that machine lays the answer.
Let me ask you a question. Election day used to be really just like a holiday to us political junkies. That's when it all came together. It all coalesced. This was the main event. With early voting and mail-in voting, do you think it takes some of the shine off Election Day itself?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I do. I think, that race in Leominster certainly drew some partisans out on the street, but not like the old days. I mean, people would be lining trucks up, a week in advance and placing 4x8 signs on them, and then, there'd be 50, 60, 70 people downtown holding signs. You don't see that kind of fervor anymore. You just don't.
You don't. And where do we go from here, too? Are we going to be looking someday at online voting or things
remote.
like that? So we do have a projection to make at this hour. The Associated Press is projecting that Maura Healey has been elected governor, will be elected governor of Massachusetts. That race has already been called. I don't think much of a
based on
surprise
exit
there.
polling?
I'm guessing so, but the Associated Press has called the race for Maura Healey, so I'm guessing the exit polling wasn't even close.
No, I think they called it that early.
Maura Healey, 51 years old, serving as Attorney General since 2014. Will become the first woman ever elected as governor of Massachusetts. So an historic night here in Massachusetts. Not the first female to serve as governor.
Jane Swift.
Jane
right?
Swift. You know what else Jane Swift was known for? And is known
Other than living in Northampton, North Adams,
in the helicopter rides.
Yeah.
Jane Swift was the last governor of this state to have actually been born and raised in Massachusetts.
Huh.
And she will continue to be, as Maura Healey was born in Bethesda, Maryland, and raised in Hampton Falls, New Hampshire.
Interesting.
And even if Jeff Deal had won, he was born in Pennsylvania. So it's been quite a while. It's been 20 years since Jane Swift was mayor, who was governor, who was the last governor who was actually born and raised here. So.
No surprise on that race, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
What do you think this is going to have any down ballot implications in Massachusetts with Maura Healey really having a decisive victory, being able to be called right at 8 o'clock?
No, I don't. I think every one of those constitutional officers is a little different, the race. Some of them might be races, others may not be races either. But I don't think, Maura Healey's success one way or the other really is going to impact a lot of them.
How about the congressional races? How do you feel about the congressional races in Massachusetts? Is some of the feelings? I mean, we're not. I know Massachusetts is different than Alabama, obviously, but nationally there seems to be a lot of disappointment with inflation, with gas prices, with a lot of those. Basically, it centers around prices, whether it be heating oil, gasoline, groceries, any of those. Do you see that having an impact in Massachusetts?
No.
At all?
No. No, I don't. I mean, who would at this point? I mean, it's just we don't follow when we've ever followed the rest of the country in those particular matters politically. I just don't see that happening tonight, and. The Republican Party in Massachusetts is a sort of an odd thing in some ways.
It is, but if we look at the results of governor's races, in the time that I've been voting, it's been mostly Republican governors in Massachusetts.
Well, moderate Republican governors who, in many respects could pass for Democrats or Democrats of yore at least. As you know, Kevin, I wrote a book about a guy who ran for governor in New Hampshire who was a Republican, became a Democrat, and he hasn't changed. The parties around him changed. Really unique political career when you think about it. Not conservative enough to be a Republican in New Hampshire, and really, in some ways, not liberal enough to be a Democrat in New Hampshire either.
Speaking of New Hampshire, we have some first numbers coming in from New Hampshire with 11% of the votes counted. Senator Maggie Hassan with 62% of the vote, and Don Bolduc with 36% of the vote, and the Libertarian candidate coming in at 2% of the vote. So
Yeah.
we don't know where these numbers are coming
Right.
in, and obviously in New Hampshire you have
Manchester and everywhere else.
Manchester and Nashua, Concord are going
Yeah.
to be different than the rest of the state.
Sure.
So we don't know where the numbers are coming from, but with 11% in, Maggie Hassan has a significant lead. Also, and this may give us a little bit of insight into that. Also, in the two congressional races in New Hampshire, Chris Pappas in the first district with 60% of the vote, with 15% in,
Yeah.
and in the second congressional district we have Ann Custer, the incumbent Democrat, with 70% of the vote. So it looks initially, at least, that we have that it may be a close race in New Hampshire. And speaking of close races, I know we have numbers that are beginning to pour in. We're going to be putting them on your screen. But if we want to talk about close races, we have some preliminary results of the state reps race in Leominster in Ward 3C. We have Natalie Higgins with 501 votes and John Dombrowski 494 votes. Just 7 votes separating the two candidates.
Well, that don't tell us much. Other than it could be a long night.
I think I heard some cheering. I'm not sure which camp we heard the cheering from. But again, this is Ward 3C in Leominster. Natalie Higgins, 501, and John Dombrowski, 494. So 3C tends to be one of the more conservative, probably one of the most conservative wards, I believe, in the city of Leominster, correct?
You know, that would be Councilor Cormier's purview. I would think that most of at least 2 of the precincts at 4 are very conservative as well. But 3, I agree generally. I think, I'm not sure which precincts, but 3 has a lot of conservative vote.
So if we look at the last election in 2020 in Leominster, we actually don't have them broken down. Leominster did not break it down by wards. But in the last election in 2020, Natalie Higgins over Tom Ardinger. Shouldn't that be Frank Ardinger?
That's correct. His real name is Thomas Frank Ardinger.
Okay. Was 56 to 40, so she beat him by 16%, but I don't have the ward breakdown on that. But again, this was the first numbers coming in from Leominster.
It looks like we have, is this 3A that's coming in too? I think we got a text here of the result in 3A.
And we are looking, by the way, directly at the tally receipt that comes out of the voting machine.
Yeah, we're getting, this is a text from Councilor Cormier. Shows Higgins with 507 votes and Dombrowski with 380. And he says that's Ward Precinct 3A.
What is that again?
3A. It doesn't, I'm not sure on the tape, but on the text.
Oh, okay. Oh, there it is. It shows, yeah. So Natalie Higgins, 507, and John Dombrowski, 380 in Ward 3A.
Yeah.
So again, these are the voting tallies on the receipts themselves that are coming out of the voting machines that we are taking a look at here. So 3A, how is 3A traditionally in Leominster for conservative, liberal?
You know, I think generally this is probably cautiously optimistic sort of news for Representative Higgins? Because I think 3 in general is fairly conservative ward.
If we look at if we go back to 2018, we can break it down into precincts where Natalie Higgins ran against Richard Palmieri. In 3C, Natalie Higgins beat Rich Palmieri 705 to 630. So it was pretty close there, yet citywide she beat him pretty substantially.
Yeah.
In 3A, she beat him by a little bit over 100 votes. Others, Ward 2 seems to be a very strong, strong ward for her in the past. We'll see if that holds up again. But 3C and 4 tend to be the more conservative wards where we would expect Dombrowski to be pulling
better, yeah.
Pulling the most.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do we have either Michael Della Monica or Glenn Fossa to get some reaction to the preliminary numbers? With again only 2 out of.
We have a report. I don't have the actual tape, but a report on 5, and there we got 5B. We have. Higgins leading, or 523 to Dombrowski's 476.
Okay, let's go to Glenn Fossa, who's live at Dombrowski headquarters in Leominster. Glenn, we have several precincts in. Any reaction there?
Yeah, so Brady's is hot, and this room is just filled with excited people. The guest of honor, the candidate, John M. Dombrowski, just arrived. He's greeting some of the supporters here. Of course, we got your report about the 2 precincts reporting. Nothing really, of course, to report in terms of John's reaction yet to any of this. He's still mulling the crowd and working through. He seems excited and ready to take this election all to the end.
Glenn, it looks like we do have a couple more precincts coming in. We had 2 precincts from Ward 3 that came in, which showed Natalie Higgins leading in both of those precincts. Now we do have 2 precincts in Ward 5 coming in. In Ward 5B, Higgins 523 to Dombrowski's 476, and in 5A, Higgins 441 to 338. So those Ward 5, Ward 3C, traditionally the more conservative wards in Leominster, and Higgins so far has been carrying every precinct. Again, only four precincts in out of 15 precincts?
Correct.
15 precincts in Leominster. We have 4 in, Higgins leading in all of them.
Yeah, so obviously that is new news, and obviously we knew it was going to be very close, we thought. All the projections were this was going to be a too close to call race, but it does seem to be going in a particular direction now. So the next time back for our visit, Kevin and Mark, we do anticipate having John with us, and we'll follow up with some of these results that you're reporting now. So from Brady's here, just outside of Monument Park area, from Leominster, Fitchburg, Leominster Access Television, and politics continues.
Thank you, Glenn Fossa. And now we can go to Michael Della Monica at Higgins headquarters.
Kevin, can you hear me? My mic seems to be not cooperating.
I can hear you loud and clear, Mike.
Oh, okay, great. So those are good preliminary results. The Higgins campaign has to feel good about that. As Mark pointed out, some of these precincts that are coming in are traditionally more conservative precincts. So it's definitely a good night for the Higgins campaign, but I got to tell you, like I said in my preliminary report, it's all business-like here because you can really, it's just business as usual here. You can no hooting and hollering and whooping it up and you know, one-liners and all these other sort of things that maybe some of the other campaigns locally have been delighting in. Well, here it's again, oh well, just another campaign.
We have 3 more precincts reporting in, Michael. We have Ward 1C is reporting in. Higgins with 444 to Dombrowski's 368. And then probably, is 4B the most conservative precinct in the city?
I would say.
4B, the most conservative precinct in the city. Dombrowski has pulled out a win in a precinct at 598 to Higgins 539. And then in Ward 4C, we have Higgins at 417 and Dombrowski at 333. So the numbers are coming in. The most conservative ward, the most conservative precinct in the city, Dombrowski did pick up 598 to 539. Mark, what do you read into those 4B numbers?
That's not surprising. The problem Dombrowski's got now is, he looks like he got beat by 161 votes in Ward 3. And if you do the math, Ward 4 is a tussle right now. 4C is the least conservative part of Ward 4. So he could make up some ground in 4A potentially, but it doesn't look like he's going to make up any ground in Ward 2. Although the vote in Ward 2 will be probably the smallest vote in Leominster.
It's traditionally the smallest voter turnout.
So we have 1 precinct and 1. Obviously, the 2 other precincts to report. It's going to just be hard to make it up.
It's hard, but not impossible.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, we're at the point where you could call this race, but it's an uphill battle.
Okay, and just talking about some of the Leominster numbers on the other races, Maura Healy leading Jeff Deal. Initial numbers about 1,500 to 1,200 votes with the small number we have in. It looks like the only race where the Republican is leading in Leominster is Anthony Amore, who's I believe running. Is that auditor?
Yes.
Is that auditor or secretary? No, that's auditor, right?
Auditor.
Or treasurer? I don't know.
He's running against DeZoglio as auditor.
Yes, that's auditor. Okay, so it looks like in Leominster at least, Amore is leading there. Waiting for more results to come in Leominster again. It is looking positive for Natalie Higgins. Cautiously optimistic, I think, should be the catchphrase there, but certainly nothing in the bag.
Yeah, well, like I said, you can't call it yet, but it's a real uphill battle at this juncture.
Interesting numbers coming out of Fitchburg. Lori Trahan in Ward 1A in Fitchburg, 340 to Dean Tran's 254. In Ward 1B, 440 for Trahan to 284 for Dean Tran. And in Ward 2B, Lori Trahan 451 to 371. So right now in Dean Tran's hometown of Fitchburg, Lori Trahan with 3 precincts reporting is leading there 1231 to 909.
Yeah.
And Senator Cronin leading Hoyt and Fitchburg 1400 to 784, almost by a 2-to-1 margin. Yeah. Probably not too surprising, I'm guessing.
No, not surprising.
So waiting for more results to come in. I don't see more results coming in from Leominster yet. But do we have, we do have those initial results coming in from Fitchburg. And if we look at Mike Kuchmarek, in the 3 precincts that are reporting, is leading by about a 2-to-1 margin. Do we have Alex Vera at Kuchmarek Cronin headquarters in Fitchburg? Okay, we don't see them yet, but once we get them, we can get some reaction from Kuchmarek, and you got him. If you could hold on just for 1 second. Yeah, if we can get Alex up. Hey, Alex, how's it going?
Doing very well.
What's that? There we go. Now I
packed
see
house
you.
here.
How's the atmosphere there?
Well, first of all, let me start by saying that the spread here at Thirsty Robot is better than any of the other locations.
That's good. Are they watching us on FATV? Do they have the TVs turned to FATV?
Yes, the FATV is on, and everyone's watching. They're enjoying their meals, desserts, you know, enjoying the atmosphere.
It looks like a pretty laid-back atmosphere right now.
It is. We are still waiting for Senator Cronin to walk in, also along with Representative Kushmerek.
Very good. Have you talked to, so you haven't seen the candidates there yet. Have you talked to their supporters?
I have talked to a few of them, and they're excited about what's coming next for them and, you know, what they've done so far. They definitely have a lot of support here.
So the TV's on right now, Alex?
That's correct.
Maybe tell the crowd to look at the TV?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Maybe tell the crowd to take a look at the TV?
Can everybody take a look at the TV?
And stand by, we have a projection to make. And we are able to project that Mike Kushmerek will win a second term in the State House as state representative, representing the voters of Fitchburg and Lunenburg Precinct B. Do we have Alex that we go back to get reaction in the room?
I don't know if you've heard that, but there was definitely a round of applause.
We woke him up, huh? Very good. We're going to go back to you when we get Representative Cronin and, Representative Kushmerek and Senator Cronin in the room. Let us know when that happens, and we'll get back to you for comments from those.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Probably not too much of a surprise there.
No.
No. And, you know, we did have Representative Kushmerek and Aaron Packard here for debate. It was a it was a debate that was cordial. They were respectful to each other. They had very different views on issues. But you know, you give Aaron Packard credit. He came in, he had his beliefs, and he put his name on the ballot, and he ran.
Yeah.
And he ran. You know, it wasn't the most aggressive campaign. I'm not sure he had too much money, too much name recognition, but he stepped up.
Yeah, it takes courage.
It does.
And you got to applaud people for making the effort. You do.
It does. And Representative Kushmerek establishing himself now. He will win a second term as the state representative for the city of Fitchburg and Lunenburg Precinct B. Still waiting for more results to come in from Leominster. Not seeing anything, not seeing any updates yet in Leominster, or more wards coming in. But right now, Natalie Higgins is leading in Leominster by a few hundred votes now. We had 4B, 4C, 3A, 1C. We had already reported all of those, correct?
Yes.
The only ones I'm not seeing here is 3C that we already had those results in, or the ones in 5 where
We need, we have 5C not reporting, 4A not reporting, none of 2 is reported, and Ward 1A and 1B are missing.
Okay. Ward 1 is traditionally usually always the last to report in for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I don't either, but we have one precinct.
We have 1C.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the makeup of 1C? Is that where I know Dombrowski lives in Ward 1, correct?
No, I think he lives in 5.
Oh, he lives in 5?
Yeah.
Okay. And we do have a couple of precincts in from Ward 5, I believe.
2, yeah, 5A and 5B.
Yeah. Statewide, let's see, as we wait for numbers to come in and continue to wait for numbers to come in Leominster, Again, it doesn't look like the AP has projected any other winners on the state level except for Maura Healey, who will be the next governor of Massachusetts. Although Anthony Amore, the auditor candidate, is leading statewide. There's very few in. There's very few votes in, but right now he's leading. Also, question 1, which is the millionaire tax fair share benefit, right now leading 59 to 41%. And the other big one, which is the most a controversial one, which is on the driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants. Right now, the noes have that with about 64% of the vote.
Interesting.
And no would be a vote to repeal that law.
Yeah. What a horrible way to legislate.
What, the ballot?
Yeah.
You're not a fan of?
Oh, God. Horrible. I mean, you know, today you went in and got a ballot. The average person pulled the ballot. And do you think they read the ballot? Do you think they read the booklet that the Secretary of State sent out? How much effort do you think they put into studying those questions?
Do you feel the same way about initiative and referendum petitions?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's a marketing campaign that's done by, you know, special interests. And the type of advertising is not informative.
Mm-hmm.
It's slanted. Both sides of it are always slanted.
Well, to whoever has the most money.
It's a terrible way to legislate. It really is, in my opinion. It is.
So what would be the recourse? Your recourse would be the ballot box, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you elect your people, go down and do the job. You know.
I know you've been. We've been wanting to watch a toss-up state in New Hampshire, with 13% of the vote in. Maggie Hassan with 61% of the vote. Don Bolduc with 36% of the vote. And in the congressional races, both Democratic incumbents leading their respective races. Chris Pappas with 61% and Ann Custer with 66% of the vote. I'm guessing Republicans may pick up some because when I'm looking at the governor's race, it's a lot closer than I think anyone expected with these numbers coming in, with Chris Sununu at 50% and Tom Sherman at 48%. So that's probably telling me that these numbers are not coming in from rural New Hampshire yet.
That's strange. Yeah, that's a strange result. Yeah, you know, every poll had Bolduc a lot closer than that. So those have to be southern New Hampshire numbers.
I would think so, because Chris Sununu should be much further ahead. If you believe polls, Governor Sununu should be further ahead than 50.7%. So I think
100%.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at, you know, Leominster and Fitchburg and look across wards, and there may be some variations in those wards, but all in all, it's pretty uniform. But in New Hampshire, it's a totally different animal.
Sure is.
So we have, again, more coming in Fitchburg. We had already called the race for Mike Kuchmarek. With more votes in, Kuchmarek now leading 2,495 to 1,320. Pretty much mirroring the Senate race in Fitchburg, where John Cronin is leading Ken Hoyt 2482 to 1342. And also, pretty much staying on that party line in Fitchburg in the congressional race, with Lori Trahan at 2208 and Dean Tran at 1566. And this is with 5 precincts reporting in Fitchburg. Anything surprising you so far?
Not really. You know, honestly, Kevin, nothing that's been reported is surprising so far.
Okay, so we were missing one precinct from Ward 3. We have them all in now. Which one did we not have from Ward 3?
In Leominster?
Yeah.
We had them all.
We had all of them?
Yeah, and according to the calculation, Higgins is ahead in Ward 3 by 161 votes.
Okay, we have Ward 3A, 507 to 380.
Yes.
Ward 5B, 623 to 596.
Correct.
And Ward 3C, 501 to 494.
Right.
So very close, only 7 votes in Ward 3C.
Which was the first one to report.
First one to report, and
Yeah.
then we do have Dombrowski did take Ward 4B, 598 to 539.
Again, no surprise there either.
And Ward 5C,
Okay, that we didn't have.
that one we didn't have, is Natalie Higgins, 380, and John Dombrowski, 258.
All right, so it just gets harder and harder.
So right now, it is Natalie Higgins with 3,411 to John Dombrowski's 3,027.
Okay. And we're missing 4A, all of 2, and 1B, and 1A and 1B.
And you're right, and we would expect Ward 2 historically would break more toward her.
Yeah, yeah, I would be shocked if it didn't.
Than
And
anything else.
The only saving grace for Dombrowski is Ward 2 generally has a pretty small vote.
Yeah.
So he's got to make it up. He's got a lot of vote to make up in 4A, in 1A, and 1B.
Do we have Michael Delamonica live at Higgins headquarters? All right, let's check in with Michael and see how things are at Higgins headquarters.
Hi there, still here, and the results are rolling in, obviously, and starting to become a substantial lead for Natalie Higgins over John Dombrowski. We hope to have incumbent Senator Higgins in here shortly. My understanding is, again, she's out with her husband. They have a post-election tradition that they always do. They go off, they digest the results for themselves, whatever those results may be, then they will come back here, and once it's official, we'll have her here, and we'll talk with her a little bit about the election.
How's that? Have you talked to some of the people in the room there and what they're feeling right now?
Confident. It's a quiet confidence, and that's the best way I can surmise it here. They've done this before. They've been through it before. A lot of familiar faces in that group, a lot of people that have stuck with her over the years. She has a core of supporters and workers for her that diligently, they put their heads down, they do what they need to do. They're veterans at this, they've done this before. And like I told you, we arrived here 7:15 or so, there's people phone banking. And so again, just working right up until the last minute. So nothing I've seen here surprises me. And obviously the results aren't official yet, but it's looking pretty good for her.
The fat lady hasn't sung yet, but I think she's warming up her vocal cords.
There you go. I mean, and again, I would defer to Attorney Bedanza, but if it's Ward 2 that we're waiting on, I just don't see, my conventional wisdom in my head, which obviously always isn't correct, would tell me that Ward 2 would also be a strong ward for Higgins.
Yeah, Michael, you're right. I mean, she should win that ward. The only saving grace for Dombrowski with that ward will be, it'll be a small vote. We don't have 1A and 1B, and we don't have 4A. So while
And we don't have 5A and 5B either, I don't believe, do we?
We got all of 5.
Oh, we got all of 5.
Yeah,
okay.
those I think your totals include all of 5.
Okay.
So
And with Ward 1 not in, again, that's why you can't really call this for Higgins yet, because quite honestly, Ward 1 has some surprises, some real surprises out of the school committee race last year, where you had a candidate that proudly didn't campaign, beat a veteran of the political process last year for school committee.
Yeah,
So that was a little bit of an upset. So, Ward 1 could be a little bit of a wild card, I guess.
Yeah, it's always, Ward 1's always a little tricky, and you still have 4A. So, 4A tends to be fairly conservative, along with 4B. So, it's not insurmountable, but it's like I said earlier, it's an uphill battle. So I think if one more precinct or 2 more precincts come in, either one from either 4A or one of the Ward 1 precincts would be able to call it. unless votes break for Dombrowski pretty decidedly.
And really, yeah, I would not expect to see Representative Higgins in here until all the wards are in and all the numbers are in. And they've had a chance to process whatever that result is, and then we'll see her here.
Yeah, it's still a little too close to do that, I think, and I can certainly respect that decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking good, but I mean, out of an abundance of caution here, we're not going to be calling a race until it's 100% sure. And with 2 precincts in Ward 1, all of Ward 2 out, and we still have 4A to come in, we're probably not quite there yet, but I think we're getting there.
Well, hey, I'm here, not going anywhere.
One race that the Associated Press has called is Governor Chris Sununu has become only the 2nd governor in the history of New Hampshire to win a 4th term. Associated Press reporting that Governor John Sununu will be reelected. They have not made a call yet. The Associated Press has not made a call on the Senate or House races up in New Hampshire. And that the Senate race in New Hampshire could very well determine the outcome of who controls the United States Senate, Mark.
Yeah, it could. It's one of the key races.
Do we have Glenn Fossa at Dombrowski headquarters in Leominster? Let's go to Glenn and see what the mood is at Dombrowski headquarters.
Still watching those numbers, Kevin and Mark. Obviously very, very close with 7 precincts reporting out of the 15. Folks here still celebrating their night out, election night out, and spoke to John briefly. We will have him up as soon as we have some turn in this decision tonight. So election coverage 2022 here at Brady's at the Dombrowski headquarters continues. We'll let you know as soon as we have some indication from the crowd or from the candidate himself as to what is going to happen tonight.
With the results that we've seen come in so far, Glenn, has the mood changed at all in the room from where we were before polls closed?
Yeah, it does not seem to have had any effect on the folks celebrating the being together tonight here at the headquarters, and of course John's still circulating in the crowd. So right now, I know it's a colloquial term, too close to call, but right now everything is business as usual at Dombrowski headquarters.
Very good. Thank you, Glenn. And we will come back to you once we get some more numbers in to see where we are and get some candidate and voter reactions.
Yeah, we're excited to bring those to you.
Okay, going back to Fitchburg, still looking to see if any more Fitchburg numbers are coming in. We don't see any new ones. We still are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 precincts reporting in Fitchburg, and it looks like all of the Democrats have a pretty substantial lead in Fitchburg at least, including the one for auditor. In Leominster, the Republican is ahead. In Fitchburg, the Democrat is ahead in that auditor's race, Anthony Amore.
It could be a close one.
Yeah, it could be. I'm trying to see if we have anything on the statewide level. The statewide level, there's only like 1% of the vote in, and they do have DeZoglio up 63 to 29%. So we'll continue to monitor that and see what happens. Still waiting on results for 1A, 1B, 4A, and all of Ward 2.
Yeah.
I think once we get one or two of those precincts in, we may be able to get a better idea of where this is headed tonight.
I think that I think we have a pretty good idea what's going to happen in 2, but those other 3 precincts are key. And again, he's going to have to perform very well in those precincts to have a chance here.
And in Leominster, which has a bit of a conservative lean to it, Senator John Cronin 4,400 votes to only 2,800 votes for Ken Hoyt, who is his Republican challenger. And in 2020, running against Dean Tran, John Cronin also carried the city of Leominster, but with only 51% of the vote, and he's leading pretty more substantially at this point in the city of Leominster. So if you're John Cronin, I'd be in a pretty good mood tonight.
I think he's done the job. He's campaigned by doing the job, and I think it shows in the results.
So, we do have some news coming out of Fitchburg, and I think we can agree that if we're going to have news like this come out of one of the two cities tonight with the level of competitiveness in the race, it's better to come out of Fitchburg than Leominster. But Fitchburg in Ward 5 did not count the mail-in and early voting as part of their totals, so we will not have those tonight.
Yeah.
So we won't have Ward 5 in Fitchburg tonight. But the race has already been called there from the wards we have. Ward 5 is not going to be able to change. The Cushmerick, and that's really the only race that is just confined to the city of Fitchburg. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of numbers that Dean Tran pulls out of his hometown of Fitchburg. If for nothing else, political viability for the future. Or do you think that comes into play? Should we be looking at these numbers tonight in Fitchburg in terms of future viability?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's valid. I mean, look, it isn't going to help, that's for sure. To lose Fitchburg in terms of future prospects, and it's a big step up he took. It's a big challenge, and nonetheless, they say fortune favors the bold, but in this particular case, I'm not so sure.
Obviously, there was some. He hit some rocky waters earlier this summer with a grand jury indictment. He's claiming that he was targeted by Maura Healey. And Maura Healey and Lori Trahan were supporting each other in the campaign, and Maura Healey sought an indictment. So you can make of it whatever you want on either side.
Yeah,
but
who knows, right?
Right.
I mean, we'll never know. The timing's a little suspect, to say the least. But
do you think that had a major impact on the race, or do you think this was set in stone, regardless if that happened?
Well, I think he had an uphill battle even without it, but I don't think it certainly didn't help.
No, and one of the things I noticed, though, and we can go over more post-election analysis on tomorrow night's show. The Dean Tran of 2018 campaigning was very different than the Dean Tran of 2022 running. Dean Tran in 2018, surrounding himself with Charlie Baker, with Lou Evangelidis, talking about bipartisanship, working across the aisle. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, we're going to work together, talk very positively, things about making improvements to Route 2, bringing money home to the district. In 2022, it was a much different message. It was much different narrative from him. It was a very combative, I'm going to fight the Democrats. It was always talking about how really attacking, Nancy Pelosi, President Biden, lumping them in with Lori Trahan. There wasn't that. It was two totally different messages, and that message really followed the Jim Lyons, who's chairman of the Mass Republican Party, that strategy that seemed to be laid out for the Republicans in Massachusetts this year. Wondering if you think that had a bigger effect on the election than the indictment did, and does that kind of scorched earth strategy impact him going forward?
I don't know in my lifetime, and certainly the last decade or so, where that has helped Republicans in Massachusetts. It's not the place. And trying to parse whether the indictment or whether that type of philosophy that's more of a national sort of trend was what did him in here is probably a very difficult thing to do. In the end, voters either like you and trust you or they don't. And, it's hard to sort of individually figure out, which issue contributed more to the fact that your opponent had a higher likability and trust than you did.
But it's an important thing to do after an election is to do that postmortem. It's important to do that autopsy and say, hey, if we want a political future, what worked and what didn't work in a campaign, and where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's a difficult task ahead if there's going to be another run. That's for sure.
We have Ward 2. All of Ward 2 is in, and Natalie Higgins in Ward 2A 316, John Dombrowski 203. In Ward 2B, we have Natalie Higgins at 442 and John Dombrowski at 375. And in 2C, we have Natalie Higgins at 243 and John Dombrowski at 212. So we have Ward 1A, 1B, and 4A left to come in. Natalie Higgins with 5376 and John Dombrowski at 4631. And 1B is in with Natalie Higgins at 624 and John Dombrowski at, excuse me, I lost my place here, 624 to 485.
Okay. Well, I think that's about the end of the road, Kevin.
Yeah, with 1B coming in, all of 2, we're looking at Natalie Higgins with a lead of about 1,000 votes, with only 2 precincts to come in.
That's not gonna work.
The math just isn't there.
No, there's not enough. You can't make up 1,000 votes in those 2 precincts.
No.
And with the trends you have from the rest of the wards, Ward 4 and Ward 1, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and for those interested, Lou Evangelidis is also leading in Leominster by about 1,200 votes. Stand by for an FATV Flap TV projection. Representative Natalie Higgins will be going back to the State House representing the city of Leominster, and solely the city of Leominster. State rep, that is her entire district, first winning election back in 2016, and now getting her 4th term as state representative.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Well, an incumbent state rep hasn't lost in Leominster since 1891.
And that's why we have the story.
With one exception, Kevin.
Okay.
Way back in the 50s and 60s, Ward 3 in Leominster was actually part of Clinton. Okay. I believe it was the 11th Worcester District. And the incumbent in 1958 was a fellow named C.C. Cole, who lost to my dear friend, retired Judge Tom Fallon. In 1958, was a Democratic candidate and beat the incumbent in that particular congressional district, which, like I said, included Ward 3 of Leominster. But with the exception of that footnote, in 1958, the last incumbent to lose state rep in Leominster was Henry Cook in 1891, who in my history travels was a rather irascible, cantankerous man who fought
much like us,
fought every reservoir construction, fought the concept of Leominster becoming a city, fought about just about everything that ever came before Leominster. He served 1 term. Ran several times after that, never to get elected again.
So it's also, I mean, the other hill that John Dombrowski had to climb, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, was is running as an unenrolled candidate. It's just very difficult to run as an unenrolled candidate. I mean, a lot of people say that we got to get rid of the two-party system. But out of the 160 representatives in the Massachusetts legislature, there's only one independent, and she did not enter as an independent. She was a Republican. She was established, and then changed.
Yeah.
The last time we actually elected an unenrolled candidate was back in 1982. To the legislature, so it's been 40 years. So Suzanne Whips is going to be sitting alone again as the only unenrolled, unless, well, we don't know what's going on in the other parts of the state. We're going to go back again. We do project that Natalie Higgins has won re-election to the Massachusetts State House, State Representative for the 4th Worcester District, and we're going to go live to Higgins campaign headquarters in Leominster to Flap TV's Michael Della Monica.
Hi, folks.
Hey, Michael.
Hearing a little bit more excitement in the other room here. So I think everybody's feeling good about how things are. I don't know if the candidate has arrived yet.
Okay, we did project Natalie Higgins as the winner. With most of the precincts in, there's only a couple precincts outstanding, and she is leading by about 1,000 votes, and feel comfortable in making that projection this evening.
Well, similar like we talked about a few minutes ago, once those Ward 2 numbers came in, it really became insurmountable for the Dabrowski campaign. You know, it is tough running as an independent. And you can say, well, I pull people from both sides. I pull Democrats and Republicans in a big tent and a big coalition. But it's just in our two-party system in this country, whether we're talking about president, whether we're talking about U.S. senator, whether we're talking about state representative, independent candidates have an uphill battle. Okay, that party affiliation means something. And so people say, well, we should go to this system, we should go to that system. Well, you know, basically since the Civil War, we've been entrenched in this two-party system in this country, and from state representative up till president of the United States, and that's just not going to change. So you're behind the 8 ball already when you run as an independent. And I lost my video here. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Oh, I think we lost Michael, but we're going to thank you, Michael.
Yep.
There he is.
All right.
I think I'm back.
Yep, you are.
All right.
All right.
Thank you
Just
very
lost
much,
my video
Michael.
for
We
a minute
appreciate
there.
you reporting live from Higgins headquarters in Leominster. Now we're going to go to Glenn Fossa, who's live at Dombrowski headquarters, also in Leominster, and I believe he has the candidate with him. Glenn. Doesn't have him yet. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go to Glenn anyway. Let's go to Glenn.
Kevin and Mark, we have spoken with the candidate, and he's still circling around a little bit. We do anticipate he's going to give us a few words. Dombrowski headquarters here, a great group of people, and obviously a strong campaign. Each and every of those wards that you reported, precincts, pretty close race, all in all, and I think that has dramatic impact on the winner, that they go back to their work knowing that they have to work for the whole town, the whole city, and the whole district that they represent in a way that says, you know, there's folks that didn't quite agree 100% with a platform. So, you know, having been a candidate, a number of us here on this team, I think it's another testimony to politics in the general area, in the North Worcester County area. So we're thrilled to be able to have John coming towards us now, and John, a hard-fought race, obviously, and a great group of folks on your team. A couple of words for the district.
Well, I think we ran a good campaign. We tried to get our word out. The votes didn't fall our way. I thought Natalie ran a good campaign, and she did a good job. And that's the way it goes sometimes.
Sure it does, and you've got to be proud of those numbers. They were very close, and you're a great candidate moving forward.
Well, I'm proud of my team. You know, we had a very good team. We worked hard, it's not the result we wanted, but I'm very proud of the effort that we put in. from top to bottom.
Good luck in the future, John. Good to see you, and thank you for being on.
Thanks so much.
Fitchburg Leominster All Politics continues with live election coverage at Fitchburg Access Television. Thank you, Kevin and Mark, and all of the team. Nate Glennie, my camera tonight, and Robin Como in the booth, and all of the folks. Travis, of course, none of it could be done without Travis Falk plugging everything in for us. So good night from Brady's, just right here in Leominster, near Monument Center.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Your thoughts on
in general?
On Dombrowski's statement right there. It's you know what? It's refreshing to hear a professional and polite concession. We don't seem to be getting those.
I expected nothing
anymore.
less from John. I mean, that's one of John's strong suits. Is he's always been respected as a gentleman, and I had no doubt that his concession would be that type of tenor.
Okay.
You know, and as he said, I mean, they ran a hard campaign. They did a lot of work, and you know, I'm sure both candidates walked around the city today and probably really didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those races where you just had to wait to count the votes.
Yeah. He did. I mean, since we did that, we're just waiting for Ward 4A to come in at this point. That's your ward. Why are you the last one to come in? It's usually Ward 1.
I don't know, Kevin.
We're going to hold you responsible for that.
I can't explain that, Kevin. It looks like to me that doing the rough math here that well, there was a big turnout in 1B. That's a big turnout.
Yeah. 1A he did very well in, by the way. He carried 1A by 646 to 560.
John did?
Yeah, John carried Ward 1A 646 to 560 and carried Ward 5, was it 5B? What is the one he carried?
He carried 4B.
4B.
And 1A.
Yeah, 4B and 1A.
That's a big vote in Ward 4, in Ward 1 rather.
Yeah. Do we have Alex Vera at the Thirsty Robot with Senator Cronin and Representative Kushmerek? Do we have his feed? All right, let's get Alex live on the air.
Well, so hey Kevin, hey Mark.
Alex, how's it going?
Doing well. I'm here with Representative Kushmerek and Senator Cronin.
Can you have them turn around to the TV and then we'll talk with them?
Sure.
All right.
They want you to turn around to the TV.
And we are standby. We do have a projection to make. So how are you feeling? We have a little bit of delay. We'll be going back there in a second. I think your colleague, Councilor Cormier in Leominster, is responsible for our 7-second delay now.
No, whatever.
Very good. Alex, back to you.
How you doing, Kevin?
Yeah. We have a little bit of a delay. He'll be getting it in a second.
I'm ready when you are, Kevin.
Go for it, Alex. It's all yours.
So I'm here with Senator Cronin and Representative Kushmerek. How do you feel, Senator Cronin?
We're good. I think, the one thing that everybody feels right now is just gratitude. You can't do it alone, and so many friends and family have got us all to this point. It's just a privilege to continue to be able to serve North Central, and looking forward to another term in the state Senate.
Absolutely, and of course, you've worked really hard to get to this point, and now you're going to be going on into your second term now, so it's really an exciting time for you and for your family and your supporters, so it's really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think, we've got such important momentum here in North Central now, and to know that Representative Higgins will have the opportunity to continue to serve with her, my partner Mike Kushmerek here in Pittsburgh, we have a great team that's advocating for the region and building a better future for us all. So we're just going to keep at it.
Awesome. And now to you, Representative Kushmerek. I mean, we've called the race already in your favor. I think we only waiting on Ward 5 now, but it's a clear winner that you've won. So congratulations. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm feeling energized and great. Like Senator Cronin said, there's so many volunteers, friends, and family. My wife is at home with our newborn Gabriel, and couldn't be more grateful to everybody and all the family and friends that have gotten us to this point, and the voters, of course, for their confidence and trust in me. But I think you also come out of this energized and excited. I'm ready to get back to work tomorrow.
Now, speaking of getting back to work, what is one thing that you're excited for?
Absolutely. Continuing the partnerships, the regional delegation. I think we've really been able to build upon the solid platform together. Senator Cronin is, under his leadership, galvanized our entire regional delegation. We're strong, we're united, we're bringing resources back. We're laser focused on things like housing and economic development and education, making sure that we bring that funding from Boston to here and delivering for the residents and the businesses in North Central Mass.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Senator Cronin and Representative Kushmerek, for being here tonight, and congratulations again. As you see, everyone here is excited and happy, and they're really they're ready for the future.
It looks like a good crowd there, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Absolutely.
It looks like a big crowd there, Alex.
It is definitely a big crowd, a packed house. And like I said, I mean, the food keeps going, the beer is flowing. So they're excited, they're celebrating, definitely.
Very good. Is the mayor there tonight?
I did not see the mayor.
Did not see the mayor, all right. We would hope to get a comment from him on the representation that Fitchburg's going to have for the next 2 years, with John Cronin in the state senate and Mike Kushmerek in the state rep seat. But I'm sure he's very happy. I believe he was supporting both. So very good. Thank you for your work tonight, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. Thoughts on all these races? All right, hold that thought. We have State Representative Natalie Higgins live at Higgins Campaign Headquarters with Michael Delamonica. We're going to go to Representative Higgins. I don't know if you can hear me, Natalie, but congratulations.
I can hear you, Kevin. Thanks so much.
Yep. We can both hear you. And again, like you said, Kevin, I'm here with Natalie Higgins. I was talking to Natalie off camera a little bit regarding this was a different race. This was a different campaign run by her opponent. First of all, it was not a Republican opponent. It was an independent opponent. And the independent opponent was out there, was doing some different things, using social media, trying to stress their big tent, different people, liberal, conservative in the middle, wanting to pull them in. But Representative Higgins and her campaign just put their heads down and ran the campaign that they are used to running. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What are some of the things that you did the same, Natalie? What are some of the things that maybe you did differently given the nature of this campaign?
Yeah, I think when it came to our field and connecting with Leominster voters, we did what we've done for the last 6 years. We hit the doors, we reached folks on the phones, we went through the city twice to really make sure that we were connecting with Leominster residents. We knew that our message was resonating with them, and we were showing up. The good thing, the new thing, right, is being a incumbent representative and having a strong record of delivering for Leominster, delivering on education funding, delivering for survivors of sexual and domestic violence, delivering for the city of Leominster. And I'm incredibly grateful to be able to continue to represent this great city.
Now, with that said, although you did win this race by several hundred votes, I can't really do the math too quickly at 9 o'clock at night, but it was your closest race that you've had in your in all your races. And there was some criticism of you this term that maybe you weren't listening to the voters enough on some of the core issues, some of the issues at the State House. Was there a message received that maybe you will try to more of a personal outreach to some of the voters in Leominster?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, having a full-time office with evening and early morning office hours accessible to Leominster residents. But I am very proud that we ran an extremely positive campaign focused on the issues, focused on how to build this city and make it stronger and build the Commonwealth so that more folks have opportunities like I had growing up in this gateway city.
Well, once again, Natalie Higgins, your state representative for Leominster, and any plans for this upcoming 2 years in terms of local initiatives, in terms of state legislation issues, other types of initiatives? What are some things that we can expect? Give us a little bit of a preview for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to hit the ground running. Looking forward to the opportunity to hopefully continue to serve on some of the same committees, hopefully have some new opportunities with Speaker Mariano, and really just excited to continue to bring Leominster's voice to the whole table at Beacon Hill.
And your party will have the governor's office for the first time in 8 years. And so are you looking forward to working with the incoming Governor Healy in terms of state legislation?
I could not be more excited to work with the Healy administration, to have Mayor Kim Driscoll representing the gateway cities as our lieutenant governor. It's going to be a really incredible time for Massachusetts, and making sure that communities like Leominster are getting the resources they need to thrive.
Well, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for
Natalie. Can you
your
still hear me,
always
Natalie?
giving time to Flap TV and FATV. And so please go celebrate with your family, your core of supporters, and
Mike, can Natalie still hear me?
the loyal crowd that has stood with you for 6+ years here. All right, back to you guys.
Hey, Michael, can you still hear me? Hello?
Apparently not.
No, I don't think they can hear us. So in the 4 races that Natalie Higgins has had, I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're on the city council. She has faced a Leominster city councilor in every one of those races in one way or another. Rick Marchand, Frank Ottinger twice, and now John Dombrowski. So she has had formidable, she hasn't had really, no names or newcomers. She's had established political figures in the city with good name recognition, and she has been able to fend off all of those challenges.
Each one of those races was obviously different.
Yep.
The first one, I think that race was a primary, right? I mean,
with Rick Marchand,
that
yes.
was the real race, was the primary, because I think Frank run?
Frank ran, yes.
When Rick lost the primary, I think
Yes.
Frank jumped in and provided a Republican challenger.
Yeah.
But that race was really won in the primary, and that was a 40-vote margin.
It was a
close.
very low voter turnout, and it was a
Yeah.
very small margin.
Yeah.
But then she went on to win the general election by a pretty substantial
Yeah,
margin.
I mean, I think Frank, was the Republican lamb to the slaughter, so to speak.
Yeah.
Someone so that there wasn't a free pass, so to speak.
Yeah. So she's had some. What do you attribute? She's beat back every one of them. What do you attribute to her victory?
I think obviously, like this particular race, I think shows more than any of those races a willingness to do the work, the hard work of campaigning, going door to door, getting the vote out, having an organized effort. Which at the end of the day, you got to get your vote to the polls, and I think this race shows that more than any of those other races. I think you could explain away, like I said, the first one. What was the get out the vote effort in the first one in the primary, and Frank is a persona that's, I think, liked, like a nice guy, but not really generally perceived as a formidable candidate in that particular type of a race, to be perfectly blunt. This one obviously is different. I mean, John raised a lot of money. John raised a very organized campaign. But I think, look, you pointed out he's an unenrolled, candidate, which is certainly part of the landscape here. But, in the end of the day, did they get outworked? Did the Higgins campaign have a better ground game.
I think it's going to be tough finding a candidate who will outwork Natalie Higgins.
Yeah.
I mean, agree or disagree with her political positions, I think clearly what we've seen is Natalie brings two very strong skill sets to the table. Number one is constituent service.
Yeah.
From everything that we hear, she is very attentive, very responsive to constituent service. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or you're for or against her. She's there for her constituents.
I've heard that too, and I think that's true.
And the second thing is, she is a hard worker. She does not rest on her laurels, even in some of those races where we pretty much knew what the outcome was going to be. She was out there pounding the pavement every day, taking nothing for granted. So, it's
she
going to be tough.
She certainly took nothing for granted in this race.
It's not,
but John should hold his head high. I mean, that's a credible showing.
For an unenrolled candidate, yeah, it's absolutely. We still don't have 4A in, Mark. I don't know what's going on in your ward.
That's the senior center. That's where it's nothing to do with the seniors, but that's where the polling station is. So it is disconnected from 4B and 4C, which vote in the Veteran Center, which is just next door, as you know.
Okay.
So for some reason that tally sheet didn't end up reported to us.
So we're going to go off the air without having 4A, because we're not going to stick around just
It's
for
not
4A.
going to change anything.
Because we're looking at, right now, State Representative Natalie Higgins winning re-election with, so far, 6,580 votes to John Dombrowski's 5,762 votes.
Unofficial result, but
Yeah.
It's obviously it won't be certified till tomorrow at the earliest. But that is a wrap.
And
for
the other races we've been looking for have already been called. State Representative Michael Kuchmarek returning back to the State House for a second term, and also going back to the State House for a second term in the other chamber is State Senator John Cronin.
Yeah, no surprises there. Really, no surprises anywhere else. The race that we were sort of trying to figure out was the race that was the closest one.
So now on to the local races next year, Leominster and Fitchburg. I hope we do it together again.
Yeah.
We won't be here. We'll be
in a different studio?
We'll be in a new studio, but we'll have our same brand new desk. You're like, this desk is an upgrade from what we had. Huh?
Every time I come here, Kevin, there's some technological innovation or some new equipment. You really, for a local access TV station, things are really done well here.
We're on it. Nate and Ann,
they should be
and the whole
congratulated
crew
too.
here, Travis, Dave, all of them do an outstanding job.
As the senator said, you really are providing, a service to the public, and people are interested in this.
It's a big team effort, you included. Alex Vera, Michael Della Monica, Glenn Fossa, like I said, Nate and Dave, Travis, our interns and volunteers that we have here this evening, people out of the polls. And most importantly, none of this would be happening without our director, Robin Como.
She's great.
Nothing would be happening without her. Thank you, Robin.
Big applause in the control room, and well-deserved, too.
Well-deserved.
Yeah.
So, for Mark Bedanza, I'm Kevin Cormier. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Good night.